Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Ideas for Us family and all of your loved ones. I hope during this time of crisis that you and your family are home safe. I hope that everyone is practicing social distancing. And I'm just so honored and thrilled to have this opportunity to connect with you and share just some positive conversations during this time when we all need a little pick me up. And I will tell you that, and by the way, this is Lee Perry of Ideas, that I am so excited about hosting more virtual events where no matter where our guest speakers are, we're able to come together and have this unifying conversation about our future in a time when there's a lot of uncertainty, right? And if one thing can help us get through this, it's a sense of hope. And that's why I'm so excited about our event tonight. The Youth Climate Activist Panel, which will be hosted by Ideas for Us. Again, my name is Lee Perry. I'm the Chief Operations Officer. And I would just like to talk to you a little bit about who we are before I get a chance to take a deep dive in introducing these amazing sustainability leaders. So, first and foremost, Ideas for Us, we are advancing environmental action worldwide. And you can go on to the next slide. We are basically an environmental solutions incubator that develops, funds, and scales solutions to combat some of the world's most pressing environmental challenges. In order to do that, the next slide, we have to bring different groups together and have these types of discussions about climate change. This is a real threat to our future, and we have to bring different people that are all concerned about these things from different backgrounds and different areas of expertise to take a deep dive in things regarding energy, water, food, waste, and ecology, all focused around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in order to progress in a way that can achieve those goals so that we can combat things like climate change, zero hunger, equality, workers' rights, etc. In bringing different groups together, which if you go to the next slide, it is the only way that we are able to develop these solutions and go after funding opportunities to actually scale environmental enterprises like fleet farming in order to put boots on the ground and solve these issues. One major thing that I want to bring up is that when we were first founded back in 2008, our founder, who's also the president of our board, Chris Castro, who is now the director of sustainability for the city of Orlando, he had a major dilemma. He was in all of these different groups and clubs on campus at the University of Central Florida. And something that he realized was that all of these amazing groups with incredible activists were working in silos. They weren't coming together and they weren't having conversations in order to organize themselves, regardless of their varying missions, in order to do greater impact and change in their community. So, upon our model, next slide, that's why we are trying to bring these different activists together to do these different types of projects in energy, water, food, waste, and ecology. So that's why I'm super, super excited just to jump right into highlighting our activists. And, when I was in school, I realized that it felt like when I approached a different professor, I wouldn't have the same recognition or acknowledgement because of my age. And yet my concerns were genuine concerns for my future. And I felt like in order to get the respect I needed, I had to bring other organizations and other clubs and activist groups and different leaders on campus together in order to have my voice heard. And so that inspired me now with my years with Ideas for Us in fleet farming. I want to pay it forward, and this will not be our only panel. I hope to do many panels like this, but I want to showcase the youth leaders of our community here in Orlando. What Greta Thunberg is doing for the climate movement and organizing these Fridays for future marches is really incredible. And it's so inspiring, but she's not the only one mobilizing people across the world. There are incredible leaders right here in Central Florida that have people following them and being inspired by their social media posts and being inspired by just their willingness to do more than watch Netflix or go to concerts and average things that students should be doing in their youth time frame. But the fact that there are activists at this age range, from high school to early 20s, when most of us are told that you're young, you're entitled to just party and have fun, it's actually a little bit of an inconvenience to organize groups and to do things like raise money and organize social media, have interns. But these people on this call today are taking their time out of their lives to organize people because it matters to them and they want to see changes in their community for their future. And that's why this event is so important, because I want to put a spotlight on each and every one of these incredible leaders and give them the opportunity to showcase the good work that they're doing. So without further ado, I would like to now introduce Arnaldo Perez. And please, audience, as these leaders are introducing themselves, think of questions and please write those questions in the Facebook comments. We're going to get to those at the end, okay? Arnaldo, take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lee. I'm very happy that we're having this panel now. Lee and I we talked about this since, I guess, like November of last year. Yeah. So actually seeing it happen, even though it's not in person, it's virtual, we made it happen. So I'm very, very happy that it still happened somehow, somewhere or another. And, just to everybody watching and all the panelists, hopefully everyone's safe and staying active during these crazy times. So a little bit about my background. I'm a UCF Knight. I studied biomedical sciences, very somewhat different from what I'm doing now. I did make a career change. And one of the main reasons why I decided to pivot was because I thought that in this field of sustainability and environmental work, from my perspective, I could have a greater impact in the amount of people that I could help. I'm not saying that, especially during these times, we do need people working in the medical field, and this is critical right now. But from my perspective and my time, I thought, hey, maybe if I'm a doctor and I help 30,000 patients throughout my lifetime or something like that, awesome. But if I can help pass a law that will improve air quality, then that might affect millions of people. And that was just my kind of like line of thinking and why I decided to change. Nothing against biomedical sciences or anything like that. So one of the ways that I first started to get into this field was through the Climate Reality Project. Now, this is one of the main organizations that I'm a part of. This is an organization created by former Vice President Al Gore. And the Climate Reality Project is a nonprofit that teaches people how to give Al Gore's presentation from his famous movie, The Inconvenient Truth, and obviously an updated version of that. So they have these leadership corps. They had one in Minnesota last year. I was able to go there. Al Gore was there. His team of staff, scientists, a lot of leaders were there during about 3 days. So at the end of that, we're climate reality leaders, and we're able to officially give his presentation. And I was able to do that with Laura Betts from Central Florida. And if you can see that picture, that was actually an event that Climate Reality hosted at City Hall. And those are people from the Kuntanawa tribe. They came straight from Brazil. They gave a presentation on the importance of the Amazon forest. And that was one of the things that was allowed and happened thanks to Climate Reality and my involvement with them. Right after that, I would say 2 months after my training in August, I started my Master's of Science in Environmental Policy and Management from the University of Denver online. And thank God I did it online, because I've been able to keep studying and keep on going, even though we're locked at home. So that worked out pretty well. And my master's degree, I decided to do a concentration in analytics and reporting, because nowadays, that is data, and data scientists and data analysts are being more and more important. And in the field of sustainability, that's very, very needed, especially if you want to propose big projects. You need to back what you're proposing, what you're bringing to decision makers. So I thought that would be a great way for me to get into that. Currently, since December of last year, I've been working with the City of Orlando's energy management team. And it's been an amazing journey. I'm very, very thankful for that team, which is part of Orlando's GreenWorks team, which Chris Castro is the head of. My boss, Ian Lahef, who's the energy project manager. I've been very involved with a lot of big projects on putting a lot of solar panels throughout the city of Orlando. And if places can't get solar panels, we'll subscribe them to OUC Solar Farm. And hopefully, and that solar farm is growing, and hopefully, what keeps on growing is clean solar renewable energy, carbon-free energy. That's one of the main things. Aside from that, I've been also lucky to work with an EDF fellow. I'll say what EDF is in a second, who is doing a renewable energy and greenhouse gas calculations in the city. So that mixes in my background for my master's degree in data analysis. So EDF stands for Environmental Defense Fund, and now they have this fellowship in the summer called the Climate Corps Fellowship. It's very rigorous to get into. You have to not only apply, you have to go through multiple interviews, case studies, and then you have to actually match with a host organization. And host organizations run from like local governments to large corporations like AT&T, Google, to nonprofits, all in between. I was very lucky that I matched with the city of Norfolk, Virginia. So I'll be moving some of the things, doing some of the things that I'm doing with the city of Orlando, but with them and with the back of EDF, helping me out on that and creating an energy roadmap. So here, when I started in the city of Orlando, there's already a GreenWorks team. There's always Chris Castro started this many years ago, and we have the pillars of GreenWorks. You have livability, food waste, energy, but not every city has that. Like, we're extremely lucky to have that here. The city of Norfolk, which we're working with in the summer, just hired this January someone who you consider analogous to Chris Castro, or like the director. They don't have a team, they don't have anything there, they're just starting. So I'm helping them in that part, in the energy. So it's incredibly exciting to see other cities outside of Florida and Central Florida that are taking this very seriously. So if you go to the next slide, please. Awesome. So what I wanted to do with this slide is, if anyone wants to take a screenshot, was highlight some opportunities and how to get involved. So with the Climate Reality Project, we do have a Central Florida chapter. That's the Facebook name, and the actual national website. They do these leadership corps where you can get trained. There's supposed to be one happening in Orlando in September. I don't know if that's potentially moved because of the whole pandemic, but it's something to stay alert how to get involved with that. Why I mentioned GreenWorks, I said that I'm part of the team and that I'm doing the fellowship, meaning that, and this is kind of behind the scenes news, my position will be opening. So if anyone listening has an analytical mind, is interested in the renewable energy field, in green building, shoot me your resume. Like, my email is there, my phone number is there, my LinkedIn is there. Shoot me your resume. I can help you out. Maybe you're a good candidate for this, and you can work with the GreenWorks team. And then EDF, the Climate Corps, the fellowship are already closed for this year, but it's definitely worth to start working on it from now if you want to do it next year. It's a 10 to 12 week, very well paid fellowship, but you have like an extreme amount of experience. You're not only bringing value to the organization, but you're learning a lot. And, the fellowship isn't only in energy. It can be in supply chain, it can be in policy. There's a lot of awesome stuff that you can get involved with. So if you want to participate in this, also reach out to me. But on the other side, if someone listening has an organization that would like to have an EDF fellow work, you don't have to wait till next year. So because of the current pandemic, unfortunately, about 15-ish fellows were cut from their fellowships for the summer. The emails, their resumes were shared with us. I have about 15 highly qualified fellows, doing master's degrees, even PhDs in fields from energy to supply chain to policy. So if you want to have someone join your team during the summer, also reach out to me and I can help you with that. So awesome. And thank you for having me, guys.
Incredible. Thank you so much. Next up is Karen Caudillo. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Caudillo. My pronouns are she, her, hers, ella. I am a local community organizer, and I also work in electoral politics with NextGen Florida. Today, I'm kind of going to be just talking about some of the work that I've done, some of the work that needs to be done, and what organizations I can direct you to. But I'll start off with a little bit about me. I am an undocumented and unafraid first-generation Latinx UCF alumni. I'm very thankful that, I was able to get a full ride scholarship through one of the first private DACA scholarships. And so I really value my education, and I know that I need to be able to use all of it to be able to help my community, and not just help them, but work with them, right? We're not here to save anybody. People need to save themselves together, right? There is no hierarchy. Some of the issues that I'm really passionate about and that I feel really intersect with climate justice is immigrant rights, farm worker rights, obviously student advocacy, labor rights, LGBTQ plus advocacy, gun violence prevention, and so on. Here are a couple things about me. I've particularly spent a lot of time organizing young people to vote. I know that, this is something that we can control right now. There's a lot more that needs to be done, but I'm very proud to have registered over 5,400 students around the UCF area as a UCF organizer with NextGen Florida. And the reason I do this work is because I know, regardless of the fact that I can't vote, right, is that another world is possible, but we need to fight for it and we need to put everything on the line. And so something that I'm focused on building right now is building an intersectional youth movement to fight for that world, right? Because like I said, it is possible. And if you'd like to find me on Instagram, connect on Twitter, you can also check out my email. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I'd love to get connected and connect you to these organizations. And you can go to the next slide. Great. One second. Great. So here are some of the organizations that I really value currently and that I know really could use any extra hands, any extra support. One of them being local, right? The Farm Worker Association of Florida. You can actually sign up to their newsletter, get updates for them, reach out to them directly. I know that currently, a lot of farm workers, their wages are being cut right now because of our food demand and corporation greed. And so we really need to make sure, and I don't want to cry, but we really need to protect the people who are feeding us right now. It's easy to say, I'm at risk because I'm going to the grocery store. And it's no, the person in the field who doesn't have access to a bathroom, who doesn't have access to running water, who is literally farming the food that you're going to eat, who can't even afford that food, is at risk, right? And so you can follow them on Instagram, you can follow them on Twitter, and they also have a really great agroecology project, and they have various community gardens throughout the Apopka area. Highly suggest if you're looking to, social distance, but do it in a way where you're going into, a garden or want some kind of tranquility, you can email communitygardenapopka@gmail.com or Paola Arminento06@gmail.com and get connected with the Campesinos Apopka garden. They could really use your help. You have to, definitely stay in contact with them because they can't have too many people at once. You do get your own designated area. And I highly encourage it right now. Food security, food sovereignty, it's something that we really need to fight for, because if we ourselves don't know how to grow our own food, and if, things don't go well, whether it's, COVID-19, whether it's a climate crisis, we need to learn how to, survive and how to, be there for each other and trade crops and etc. And I'm also going to plug in the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. I actually grew up in Naples, Florida, Southwest Florida, and I grew up in one of the counties with the largest income inequality gap in the country. I know folks like, I don't know them, but the owner of Papa John's, for example, lives within my county, but 40 minutes away, we have one of the poorest areas in the country with a high population of farm workers. The Coalition of Immokalee Workers has been fighting, for a long time to gain, dignity and respect in the farm working fields. And so I'm very passionate, as you can tell, about farm worker justice, because they are some of the most vulnerable communities here in the U.S. And a lot of them are undocumented. They can't, call, the police or anyone to report their wage theft, or to report any abuse, or to report rape in the fields, right? Because they are afraid of being detained. They are afraid of their family's well-being, and they're afraid of retaliation, right? And so you can learn more about them at their Instagram at Immokalee, IMMOKALEE.workers. And one thing that if, you don't have the capability to help them, whether it be donation wise or etc., right now they do need your help, right? If you can sign their petition to support their efforts and protect them right now, please do. This petition that is on here, and I believe will be added into the comments, is a petition to demand Florida Governor Ron DeSantis protect farm workers during COVID-19. I was just driving home over the weekend, and I saw a bus full of farm workers. I didn't see anyone with a face mask. And, a lot of our labor laws actually don't even apply to farm workers, and people don't know that. You can be 15 years old and they will send you to the farm and work, right? No one is going to protect them. And so we need to demand and work with them to protect them, because, they are, I don't want to say essential, because at the end of the day, it's not their choice, right? They are working out of need, but they are providing for us, and we need to be able to, work with them to protect their dignity and respect in their workplace. And so if you are a student and you'd like to get involved with working with farm worker rights and protecting their dignity and respect in the workplace, you can actually check out Student Farm Worker Alliance. They're a national network of students and young people organizing with the Coalition of Immokalee Workers to uproot exploitation in the field. Every year, obviously not during COVID-19, but they do a nationwide tour to different universities. Right now, the Coalition of Immokalee Workers has a campaign boycotting Publix and boycotting Wendy's. And so the reason they're boycotting is because in their efforts to gain drinking water, bathroom access, being able to report rape and abuse in the farm working fields, they demanded a penny more of pay. And so in retaliation, the same corporations that I just mentioned, who they were challenging, ended up deciding to take their purchases to Mexico. And so a lot of the tomatoes that are grown in Mexico are in even worse conditions, right? These people don't have any protections at all. And, it is a form of, intense abuse. And so definitely consider checking out the Coalition of Immokalee Workers and the Student Farm Worker Alliance. It's very important. And if you want to learn more about boycotting Wendy's, please look up Boycott Wendy's on Google. I'm sure the website will come up. A lot of major corporations have already signed up. I know that I believe Walmart, Burger King, McDonald's, like a whole bunch of different major corporations have already signed on, and Wendy's refuses, Publix refuses. And as consumers, you know, I can't tell you, you know, don't go to Publix and don't buy tomatoes if that's the only place in your region. But they do have resources where you can collect your receipts and you can, you know, bring in a letter, print it out, bringing up the concerns. You can actually staple them staple the letter to your receipts and turn it into the manager, right? And really bring up your concerns, because at the end of the day, like, we need to build collective power in order to be able to take on a lot of these corporations and to bring justice to everybody, right? And so, yeah, those are some organizations, and you can go to the next slide. Great. Last slide. So continuing on, the organizations that are following that I really also recommend are Uprooted and Rising. They are committed to ending higher education support for big food corporations and white supremacy in the food system, and directing the energy of our generation towards food sovereignty. And they believe that they're gonna win, right? And so a really great survey that you can check out here is currently being filled out by a lot of students across the country. They're trying to figure out, you know, which workers have been laid off. I know that personally, a lot of my friends from UCF that were working in the dining halls were laid off without warning, right, due to COVID-19. And a lot of these students depend on this money to be able to live, right? And so if you sign the petition, fill out the survey. Essentially, what they're trying to do right now is that a lot of multinational, multi-billion-dollar food service companies like Aramark, Sodexo, and Compass Group, the big three, right? They control the vast majority of contracted dining operations in colleges and universities. And may I also point out that I know that Aramark is the corporation that UCF has a contract with. Aramark also directly invests in private prisons and fossil fuels. And as, you know, someone of color who is going to be drastically affected by both of these, right? I urge everybody to definitely sign this petition, to call on the big three to take responsibility and ensure the survival of workers, students, and community food producers during this crisis. And you can learn more of Uprooted and Rising by checking them out at www.com, uprootedandrising.org, and their Instagrams are listed below. That's their national and their Florida Instagram. And lastly, you know, on the topic of food sovereignty, I know that Ideas for Us, I know that Lee, a lot of folks here in the Central Florida have been doing a lot of work with community gardens, with, you know, creating sustainable food options. And so another great organization is Blue Trunk Garden. Their goal is to maintain a sustainable operation by practicing ecological sustainability and providing members of the community with knowledge of the importance of agriculture, community, and trade. You can learn more about them at www.bluetrunkgarden.org. And like I said, I highly recommend it. I thank you all for this time and this space, and I hope that y'all stay involved because, like I said, another world is possible. And right now, if you are privileged enough to have time and the accessibility to organize digitally with a lot of these movements, I highly encourage it. And like I said, you can reach out to me on Instagram at ohhello, 2 H's. I'm Karen with 2 N's. Thank you. Back to Lee.
Incredible, incredible. Thank you so much for showing your passion. If we can pass it over now to Kristen Anderson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kristen Anderson, pronouns she, hers, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do. So I'm an almost graduate of the University of Central Florida, majoring in conservation biology and ecology and minoring in environmental studies and psychology. During my time at UCF, I've been involved in a few communities surrounded by like environmentalism, and I started out with student government and worked my way to the Student Sustainability Advocacy Committee under Sustainability Initiatives. And that's a really great program. I highly recommend students to check it out. Through that, I created the UCF Food Recovery Network program with the help of the team, and that's still a project in the making. But one of the best things that came out of that was the amazing network that I created. I made some great connections with other leaders on campus. And with those people, we were able to create an eco council. We noticed that a lot of organizations on campus were doing similar projects. So we created a monthly meeting where representatives from clubs can just have a small little meeting talking about what everybody's doing and how we can do it together. Just to really make one big beach cleanup or other projects like that to really encourage each other and just make it really collective and kind of promote our organizations. So that started this semester and hoping to continue on to future semesters. I've also worked with Next Gen America for 2 semesters. Karen just told you about that. It's a really great organization. I've had so much fun just meeting so many students and kind of trying to encourage them to take change making into their own hands through their voice and through their vote. So that's been amazing. But the most impactful experience I think that I've had was through Ideas for Us, UCF. I've had the privilege of being the branch manager of that for almost a year and a half. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that on the next slide, please. Awesome. So what really, as you guys know, Ideas for Us is an environmental action organization. And I think that we stand out because of the amazing team of organizers that we have. They're just so incredible because they have so many obligations with school and they have a personal lives. And like Lee said, like, you know, we want to just hang out, but they come every week to our meetings and bring so much energy and initiative and great ideas. And together we kind of create projects so that we can just branch out to the student body in general and give them opportunities to take action against climate change. And we've been doing this for a while, but I've only been doing it for a year and a half, and we've done some great projects. We really try and make it, put it in perspective for students and help them understand how much of a great impact they can have. An example I like to use as one individual, you might produce about 4.4 pounds of trash a day on average, which ends up being about 1,500 pounds a year. So you as one individual could divert about 1,000 pounds of trash a year. And this would reduce your footprint and it would encourage people around you. And so that really just empowers individuals to be like, wow, me as one person can just do so much. So let's do it together in this collective space with Ideas for Us. And we do this through our monthly Hive meetings where we have an expert come in and kind of talk to us about an issue that might affect the globe or even our community. But then immediately afterwards, we have a discussion where we ask the people that attended, mostly students, all right, what do we do about this? How do we incorporate solutions into our UCF community? And then we kind of share our ideas, and then us organizers take down these ideas and try and make it into action projects. And we have done this through so many action projects. Every month we do one. We've done a pollinator garden installation, I think twice. We've done fruit tree planting on campus. We've done so many beach cleanups and shoreline restoration projects, and it's just such a wonderful experience to work with so many amazing people. But that wasn't enough for us. We went on to start doing monthly workshops as well. This is to create an opportunity to have more student-on-student education. So if an organizer has a topic that they really care about, like the water crisis, we would create an event so that they could research that, and then us as a team can educate the other students that attend. And so we've done the Water Crisis Explained event where we talked about water shortages in North America so that people understand this isn't another country problem. This is a global issue that needs to be discussed. We've also done meal prep workshops, as you can see in the bottom picture, where we let people swap recipes, and also we did some demonstrations of food, which was so much fun. A lot of people came because free food, but really the topic was how much waste is produced. How much waste is produced in meal prepping, and also, in eating out, and then how much waste can be reduced by meal prepping. And so we've also done a great series with the Sierra Club. We've done this through Raquel Fernandez. Shout out to her. It's been an amazing project where we've talked about environmental injustices, and that's been super important to talk about and kind of bring it to the attention of students. And on that note, we try and create every project to have a partner. So we get other clubs to kind of do these workshops with us and these projects with us. So every beach cleanup, we try and do it with another group. And not necessarily biology clubs or, bug clubs or hippie clubs. It could just be anything. We really just want to bring everybody into this conversation and make it about the community, because it impacts all of us. So we want to create these solutions that can help all of us. And we've done so many great projects. We've created a great community of people that come to our events. And like I said, the amazing team of organizers, we work so hard. And I really can't wait to see what we come up with in the future. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being such an inspiration. So Lorena, you are next.
Hello, I'm Lorena, and I'm 17 years old. I'm currently in high school, and my journey with activism started last September at the September 20th strike. It was kind of a big moment in which I really was able to get initiated with ideas for us and be able to speak to Lee about how I can tackle and bring climate change into the conversation within Orlando. And it has been a huge blessing. I worked with Fridays for Future Orlando, and I helped organize the strikes by trying to get press contacts out and making sure that our strikes are being posted. And through that, I also got involved with 0 Hour. And so it is an international group that started off with Jamie Margolin, and it works to address and educate the community on the effects of climate change and what those roots are. So 0 Hour addresses the roots of climate change based off capitalism, sexism, racism, and colonialism. And we work to educate the public on how important it is to tackle these issues to make sure that we can prevent climate change and really make sure that it doesn't exacerbate these issues. And so one of the ways that we do that is through the Getting to the Roots of Climate Change presentation and presenting that in our community. And so through 0 Hour, I've really learned how to be able to strategize and organize different events within my community to make sure that the message about climate change is clear. It's not a myth, it's not a what if occurrence. It's there, it's present, and we're already seeing the impacts of the issue. So I'm starting to plan out and lead a youth chapter within Orlando for 0 Hour. And unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we had to cancel a panel regarding renewable energy in alliance with Anis Gamani's House Bill 93, which vouches for renewable energy. And so part of what we want to do with the Orlando 0 Hour chapter is bring light to many of these issues and just really work to educate the public and bring climate change and these issues back into conversation. And through that, I've been able to work with the We the Planet campaign, which was a digital action that was initiated as a result of COVID-19. Obviously, this year, Earth Day was supposed to be a very big day for a lot of activists to really push for the initiation of change within the environmental community. However, because of COVID-19, we had to plan out digital actions. And so through the We the Planet campaign, I was really fortunate to be able to work with activists from all over the world and be able to push people from all over the world to push for one systemic and one individual action that they can take to fight against the climate crisis and bring the crisis into their community and back into conversation. And so this was really valuable experience for me because I was able to work with incredible activists like Shia Vasita and just many other people that have been a large influence within the climate community, and be able to learn how to strategize and tackle this issue. And yeah, it's been a huge blessing. And right now, I think the best thing that we can really do is just work to continue to push climate change into the conversation and make sure that after COVID-19, these frontline communities don't continue to be at risk of what climate change can be at.
Thank you so much.
If you have any questions, thank you. My Instagram is linked there.
I just have to say, funny story, when I first met Lorena, we met on campus at UCF, and I sat down with her for over an hour and had no idea she wasn't a college student yet. The way she carries herself and articulates herself is very impressive. And when she told me she was still in high school, I had no idea. And she just continues to inspire me every time I talk to her. So incredible work. All righty. So Zach, let's go ahead and move over to you.
Yes, thank you, Lee. So I want to start off by thanking Lee and Ideas for Us for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I'm honored, and here goes. So hi, my name is Zach Newton. I'm co-founder of Eco Earth Friends. Eco Earth Friends is an environmental educational organization. My family started Eco Earth Friends as a project for us to learn more about how to protect our natural environment and also to help other kids learn about sustainability. We started out just by volunteering to table at environmental events and do projects with kids, such as making tiny gardens. And you might not think about this, but a lot of people, even with as much work as we're doing and as much advocacy as there is in the world, these kids had never actually gotten to plant anything in their lives. So to have these little potted gardens that we were introducing to them, it was a new experience for them and some motivation for them to get out there and get their hands in the dirt and start growing their own food and things like that. So this also started conversations about how important it is to have clean water and to grow food. We've done hundreds of these mini gardens over the past couple of years. I'm also working with the Florida Youth Climate Strike for Brevard County. Last year, we organized 2 marches in our community over the Lagoon Causeway. I had an opportunity to speak at the rallies, and I took an opportunity to encourage people to prioritize environmental issues when they vote and to actually go vote. Of course, our Earth Day March this month was canceled, but we're still working on events online. Another project I'm working on is with the Clio Institute to encourage the city of Orlando to declare a climate emergency. We know Orlando has helped lead the way in sustainability and resiliency, and we hope to continue to lead an example with this declaration. One great thing about founding Eco Earth Friends is that it's brought a lot of other opportunities like these and be able to volunteer with other organizations. This past February, I was able to go and join Rethink Energy Florida in Tallahassee for their rally in Tally to lobby for environmental bills, including banning fracking and environmental justice issues. I've also had many opportunities to volunteer with the City of Satellite Beach environmental programs for Earth Day, for educational events, and their first annual Solar Expo earlier this year. So that was my presentation. I just want to say this is my first Zoom meeting. Sorry I misspoke a couple of times there, but I'm going to hand it back over to Lee.
You did a great job. You did an amazing job. You don't worry about that at all. Good work organizing in your community. We're going to pass it over to Ashton now, if everybody can mute their microphones, except for Miss Ashton Wilson.
Thank you, Lee. So hi, my name is Ashton Wilson. I am 17 years old, and I'm currently a junior at West Orange High School. And I am involved with 2 organizations, those being Warriors for Environmental Activism and Friends of Split Oak. So my first organization is Warriors for Environmental Activism, or we like to call it WEA. And it's a club at my school that basically started off with just a group of my friends and I coming together last summer. And we all agreed that we wanted to do something to help our environment through our school so we can get other students involved. So we created a club with the goal to help spread awareness and inspire our peers to participate in helping the environment. So of course, we advertised for the club on social media platforms, we put posters out, and we hoped for a good turnout, but I expected 10, maybe 15 people to show up. And for our first meeting, over 60 people ended up showing up. And just seeing a room full of high school students like me who are just as enthusiastic for the environment as I was truly awe-inspiring, because it feels like so many people label our generation as lazy, as unmotivated, and just a room full of young high school students who are ready to get hands-on and do everything they can to help truly contradicts that stereotype. So for the first half of our school year, we did many activities. We put posters up to try to educate people about the climate crisis we're currently in. And we did upcycling activities such as we turned old shirts into reusable grocery tote bags. And we did trash pickups around the community. And sadly, we had a lot more plans for the second half of the year, such as fundraising for a local organization and planting flowers and trees in our courtyards, but we could not accomplish those because of the current situation. But we hope to do that next fall when we come back to school. But just overall, we really hope to continue to inspire our peers to give back and help the earth. And even past that, we really hope that the message that our club stands for carries on past my graduation and for many of the classes to come after me, so that the cycle of learning and the cycle of getting educated about the issues that are currently going on continue. So the other organization I'm involved with is called Friends of Split Oak. And basically there's this large stretch of land in Central Florida called Split Oak Forest. And it's absolutely beautiful. I've hiked the trails there, and there's so much wildlife, and it's so important for our environment. And this land was actually supposed to be set aside for the public to use decades ago. It was set aside for the public to use decades ago. And it was meant to be kept in perpetuity for the people, which means it was meant to be kept forever and not to be tampered with. But unfortunately, there's been a recent push from certain developers to try and build a road through a portion of the forest. So a group of people from the community came together to try to fight against this, and we call ourselves the Friends of Split Oak. We have fought tooth and nail to try to prevent this road from being built. We've done everything from speaking at countless town hall meetings to doing letter writing campaigns to even protesting the streets with signs and yelling at oncoming cars. And it's truly been such an uphill battle, because it feels like at every turn, our elected government officials are just not listening to our pleas to try to save this forest. But despite the adversities we faced, despite I'm so sorry, I'm so nervous. Despite the adversities we face, we continue to fight. And I'm proud to say that we will be able to vote on an amendment next election to save the forest in the future. So overall, it's just been amazing to see this group of people from the community come together, people from all walks of life come together over the love of this forest. And the same can go for WIA. It's just been so inspiring to see a group of people, whether it's high school students or people from our community, come together to advocate for the environment. And personally, seeing a room full of faces who are passionate for nature gives me hope for the future of our planet. And I hope to not only continue to fight for what I believe in, but also continue to help others fight as well, because truly nothing is as important as saving the beautiful planet that we live on. And the only way to be able to, the only way for that to be done is through the perseverance of people like you guys. So thank you so much.
Incredible job. Don't be nervous. That was very, very well done. We can pass it over now to Miss Dawn.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm so glad to be joined by all these wonderful youth activists. So again, my name's Dawn Royster. I'm a 17-year-old at Timber Creek High School. I actually go to school with Lorena. And I just got started with climate activism and justice this year. Also, like Lorena, at the September 20th strike. That was where I was first introduced to Ideas for Us. And I just started after being surrounded by so many activists and seeing the signs and being surrounded by such a community that I didn't know was so present in this area. I was just so inspired to get involved further. So what I did was I after Lorena mentioned interest and she started her own 0 Hour chapter, I asked to come on board with her. And I've been working with her in our chapter that we run out of our high school, which is amazing. And then I also, later on, a couple of months ago, took on an internship at Ideas for Us UCF, where I work with students, one of them being our wonderful branch manager, Kristen Anderson. And between that, I have interlinked one of my other passions, which is education, and founding a penny nonprofit that I run with a peer at my school called Illuminated Youth. This is an organization that focuses primarily on awareness education and education equity. Awareness education being raising awareness around topics ranging from not only climate education and climate science to other topics like sex ed, cultural diversity, and stuff like that I feel is neglected in our school system. So we work on that through 3 main tiers. That's writing curriculum with experts, reaching out so that we can involve ourselves in extracurriculars that surround these interests. And lastly, through school supplies, as my co-founder has already worked with different nations in South America, in which she sends supplies like twice a year. So we've been doing a lot of that. Other things I do surrounding education is I started with Harvard's Graduate School Education on their Making Caring Common initiative last fall. I believe I came on board in November, where I worked with 25 amazing teenagers throughout the country. And we come to meetings and we discuss problems we see within like youth our age, whether that's like climate change, everything ranging from like mental health or relationships and even forming identity. So I came and bridged that with Illuminated Youth. And so in the past 9 months, I've found myself in various organizations taking on roles and just surrounding myself with other youth who share this passion. Next slide. So one of those is Alliance for Climate Education, which we just begun a couple weeks ago. Hello, if you guys are here. I think it's our 3rd week, and this is a wonderful organization that focuses on climate education and building a youth network around storytelling, campaigns, and action fellowships, where they have different fellows in different terms every year, and they work to upraise a generation in different groups of climate activists who will not only spread the message, but also inspire action projects in their communities. And then I've taken on the role of the logistics director at our 0 Hour Orlando branch, which means I work with Lorena to make sure our events run smoothly. And this is one of my favorite organizations that I work with. As Lorena said, it is run primarily by women of color. So it's amazing to see a national youth-run organization with people who are representing voices that are not always seen. And they not only focus on representing women of color, but also Americans who have disabilities, as well as Americans who come from, some of the most disadvantaged communities. And then lastly, I of course came on as an organizing intern with Ideas for Us UCF, and that meant attending hives and looking for speakers and just seeing where like my activism could go, being surrounded by college students every week. And that gave me a chance to be on campus and see like different ways they take to address sustainability issues, as well as the ways they get to network with different organizations on campus. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. See, another example where, Lorena and Dawn did not have to, but they went out of their way to go on campus and help organize on a college level to get their feet wet and get the experience. And that's just so incredible to me. So last but not least, we're going to pass it over to Miss JD.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm JD Chen, and from a university with a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Studies with a concentration in Communication and Planning. My background includes human factors and cognitive psychology, as well as geographic information systems. I'm involved with the ACAT lab at UCF. It is a psychology research lab on campus. I am also the Vice Executive Chair for SGA's Innovation Council, and we're in the implementation stages of creating a scalable food waste recycling system for universities in Central Florida. I'm also the author, I still can't believe this, but I am the author of Food for Thought, or the working title Tarian Diets, which delves into the ins and outs of sustainable approaches to food consumption. It officially publishes in July of this year, so tune in for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Lee. And next slide, please. Awesome. I am the Food Waste Associate for the Office of Sustainability and Resilience for the City of Orlando. As part of the Zero Waste team, I interact with residents and analyze data from food collection sites that we have. I also coordinate volunteers who I lovingly call my food waste scrap squad, and they're amazing, and it's such a great way to get involved and interact with residents and see really both sides of the coin whenever it comes to recycling and food waste. One of the city's goals is to have 100% of our waste be diverted from landfills by 2040, which is a very ambitious goal, but of course we're working very hard to reach it. And in order to reach that goal, you have to tackle recycling, food waste, composting, and consumption behaviors in particular, and they're all important to reach this goal. In addition, I worked with the City of Winter Park Sustainability Program to analyze energy and water consumption data for local businesses, and we try to encourage them to sign up for the Green Business Recognition Program so that they can earn points and have a ranking system, almost like LEED, but for businesses, and encourage both consumers and suppliers, in this case businesses, to be more sustainable. Now more than ever is the importance of local governments to step up and take charge of sustainability issues, because right now, unfortunately, the federal government doesn't seem to be on the same page. We need support from all levels, from grassroots activists like all these amazing panelists, and also the support of city, state, and federal entities to come together to create change and protect this little place we call home. Next slide, please. And so there are many ways to get involved. If you're interested in research, please don't be afraid to do it. It's very messy in the beginning, but it's totally worth your time. The city is also a great place for research. Any one of the 7 focus areas. Right now, I want to shout out Daniel and Jimmy for working really hard on the rooftop garden that we have at Fire Station 1, and also the Paramore Garden, which is booming right now, and I'm very excited to see all the produce that we have from that. The Society Library also has virtual internships if you guys are interested. You don't have to travel anywhere, and as long as you have access to a computer and internet, you can partake in their internship program. And what they essentially do is dissect claims about climate change, or what they call the Great Climate Debate, and really break it down and find sources and evidence for both sides of the spectrum, so that it's not all just one voice being heard and you're really understanding what arguments are being made. And if you want to write your own book, you can reach out to me and I'll get you in contact with New Degree Press. They are the ones who are really pushing the efforts to try to get students to publish their own books. I still can't believe it. I don't feel like I'm really writing a book, but it's something that I'll be really proud of and worked really hard on. So hopefully everybody will like it. And then, of course, there's Ideas for Us. I worked with Sharon Hammond when she was part of the Hive, and I met Lee probably my first month at UCF, and I had no idea what I was doing. And just listening to Lee speak about sustainability issues and how students could get involved really motivated me to expand my horizons and go into research and go into and apply for a job that I didn't think I would get, which is with the city. And so finally, if you're at a college or university or still in high school, I recommend research. It's very important. I think it often gets overlooked because right now the media is kind of the forefront of where everybody gets their information, and no one really wants to read a boring peer-reviewed article. It's very long. There's a lot of technical words, but it's very important to read those and to contribute to that literature. So my my, I guess, motto is don't be afraid to ask questions, because it might just lead you to write your own research publication one day. All right, and then finally, thank you so much for having me. I'm still very shocked that I'm even here, and I'm super excited to see what all of you and the city has to offer for sustainability in the future.
Incredible. And you deserve to just flourish in this moment, Miss Author.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we'll just go ahead and just jump into questions. If each of you can use about 2 minutes per question, but really let your heart shine, because these questions have obviously a personal and professional connotation behind them, considering that, you know, each of you are activists, most likely because you love it, because you're following your heart, right? So the first question that I wrote was basically the main theme that I wanted to carry through this discussion and really hit this one on the head. And pretend that your local and state and federal governments and maybe even other fellow voters are listening to your answer, okay? But don't be nervous. What do you think about your future, and how does climate change affect your dreams? And that can be positive or negative. And those are your dreams for the future. So how does climate change affect your future dreams? And we'll start with Arnaldo, and we'll go down that same order.
All right. Thank you, Lee. And just quick shout out to everybody. I mean, it's pretty amazing that a lot of you all just 16, 17 years old. Like, I wish I would have started back then. You know, fortunately, I started when I was 24 and 25 now. So you got a good head start of me. So how does this affect my future and my dreams? It literally shapes them. This is the reason why I made a career change. It's because I do believe there's a climate crisis. And it's an issue not about the environment, it's an issue about overall justice. So this affects everybody. As Karen was talking about farm worker rights, it goes into establishing new policies. It affects our families, it affects our environment. I'm from Puerto Rico. It's a very tropical island, and it's being affected there. There are natural disasters that are being just heightened and increased in rate and in just strength because of this. For example, Hurricane Maria back in Puerto Rico. Natural disasters happening here. But again, it does have a negative side of it. Obviously, that's like in our faces. It is a climate crisis that's just threatening all of us. But it's also it puts us in a position to have an opportunity to rise up to this ginormous challenge. And just like everybody just mentioned, we all have our different ways of targeting this big crisis. We all have our ways of where we specialize and what we like more. So it's just about doing it your own way and just taking the lead however way you can.
Thank you. Karen.
Hey everyone. I guess there's a lot of layers of unpacking for me when it comes to this question, because for a lot of people, learning about the climate crisis, it's like, okay, yeah, we have 10 years to turn this around. And so that same kind of deadline, right, is one that I've lived by as a DACA recipient, where every 2 years, I have the likelihood of not being able to renew my status. And so for me, those kind of timelines are, yes, very crucial, but they're also kind of activating, right? So what can we do in that time to mitigate? What can we do to prepare? And so for me, I think that looks like, do I have the time, if I wanted to go to law school? Am I able to take 3 years to go to law school when I could be fighting in my community, when I could be organizing, my community, when I can make sure that we're adapting, right? And so, that's a lot of the problem, right? That I always have is can I take this break? Is it worth this break, right? Same with grad school. I've been looking at studying feminist political theory. And yeah, like, how can I study something and, use it as a resource later on for the well-being of all, when I'm not even sure if that space is even going to be there, right? So that's something, I guess, that kind of triggers in my mind. I also think about like family, right? Like, I'm 24 and I don't think I'm going to have kids. I think of like, this mess, and I think of everything that everyone is going through. I think about the children at the border, right, who are separated from their parents, who now are in danger of COVID-19. And I can't fathom, having a child and bringing them into this world and then, teaching them and educating them that, what the resources that I've had, they may not have, right? And so there's a lot of different layers of this to unpack, and I see things from a lot of different intersections, and them being oppression, right? Different oppressions. And then, I think about like collective power though, and I think about resilience, and I think about how, it's really weird for me to be the first in my family, yes, to graduate from college, the first to ever make any kind of like income like I'm making right now. But then at the same time, there's so much regression in our history. So while, I may be making my family proud and navigating these different levels, there's also a lot of things that are holding me back, like my status, right? I've thought of maybe running for office one day, and I'm like, okay, I can't do that right now, right? And so I think that for me, what I would tell my legislators, my local officials, local, leaders who can make, change, is that, you have to think of people over profit. Because at the end of the day, if everything that we're doing is for our special interests, right? We're not going to adapt to this climate crisis. We're not going to adapt to any form of crisis. And it is hard, right, to separate your own feelings and your own like wants, right? And to realize what is needed. And so that's kind of where this question leads me to. Thank you.
Incredible, incredible. Kristen, you're next.
All right. I think that there is, of course, a lot to fear. There's some things facing us like food shortages and water scarcity. And fortunately, we're privileged in our country to not see that as much. It definitely still exists. But I have a lot of hope despite all of this horrible things facing us. And I think that most of you probably do too, because otherwise, what are you doing here right now? But if you don't have hope, like, yeah, what are we doing? We have so much opportunity and so many amazing people who are working towards climate solutions. And that is really what pushes me forward, is people like all of you on this panel, most of all, and everybody on this call. Like, you are big picture thinkers, and you understand that there is something that we can do to solve this issue facing our planet. And I hope that everybody works towards these solutions. And I think that in my near future, I'm hoping to see more opportunities to fight for our planet show up. So many grassroots organizations are coming into fruition. Like, Ideas for Us was grassroots, and now they're making huge change. And you high schoolers creating your own groups, like, that's so empowering to me. And things like that, seeing things like that really gives me hope for the future. Of course, I'm scared. Climate grief is real and I feel it. But really, you have to set your sights on what can be done. And of course, you can do that through community mobilizing and organizing. And of course, calling for action from your legislators and using your vote to really ask for what you need. And what we all need is more solutions to fight against climate change. So at the end of the day, yes, it's scary and it's hard. to find hope, but there is, and it is in all of you on this call and all of you on this panel. And I think we can really make change together. So that's my take.
Thank you. Thank you. Lorena?
Hello. I loved what everyone has been saying, but something I really agree with Kristen in the sense that despite that, there's a lot of fear surrounding this, we have to be optimistic about what can happen. Heck, if we can prioritize fossil fuels and how they stimulate our industry, why aren't we prioritizing the climate crisis and how it can be done? So I think that's really valuable. And I think overall, I really want people to realize that it's not, no matter how old you are, no matter where you come from, background, etc. This is an intergenerational, it's everything you could ever imagine. The movement, there's no requirement for you to be an activist within your community, whether that means for you to start composting or start having meatless Mondays. There's always something you can do, and it is absolutely never late for you to contribute to the mitigation of this issue. And I think if people, whoever's watching this, if you're watching us and hearing our voices, realize that we're optimistic about this because we realize that there is something that we can do. But for this to actually be accomplished, we need you to at least meet us halfway so we can actually accomplish this. So if we want a happy, sustainable future where we can all live, the dream and like the American dream that we all really want to have in our life, I mean, we need to have our adults and peers listen to us and recognize that we are using our voices to amplify the voices of those who cannot be used. Yeah.
Amazing. Do you turn 18, Lorena, for voting in November?
No, my birthday's November 4th. I'm so mad. It's like the worst birthday gift ever.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
I'll do what I can, yeah.
Well, we'll move on to Zach. Zach, are you ready to answer the question?
Yes, definitely. So I think I'm gonna have to go with the route of answering a question with a question. The question to me was, how do you see your future? And I asked you, what future? If climate change goes south, we're all basically screwed. Excuse my lack of better terms, but I'm already seeing the effects of climate change right now. Look at Miami, even us. I was forced under mandatory evacuation to evacuate my home 3 of the last 4 hurricane seasons because due to global warming and climate change, the hurricanes are getting stronger. We're in this pandemic, we're seeing a lack of food supply, obviously necessary essentials. Think about this on a global scale, but for different reasons. Through this pandemic, we're able to see that the world is definitely at a limited, it has a limited amount of resources. I feel like if this ticking time bomb has already detonated, if that makes sense. I feel like we're already pretty much experiencing what we will experience on a higher scale.
Yeah, 100%. They talk about a carbon budget, but we don't have a budget. That's just Mayday, Mayday. We should be screaming at the top of our lungs, right? So you're absolutely right. I completely agree with you. And some people don't even want to admit that climate change is even real. So that's also that problem there. So thank you for sharing that. Ashton, you're next.
So I feel like as a younger generation, it's hard not to be scared about the future and what it holds as far as climate change comes, because we've been born into a time where all we see is the issues and they're piling up. And that's really scary. We've inherited this from other generations that haven't done their part to step up and really help out. But like so many of you guys have already pointed out, there's still hope. There's still people out there who are pushing to try to make things better. And it's incredibly inspiring to see you all. And you guys are doing so much to help with everything that you can. And so it's good to see that people are still working towards it, even though it seems like it could be dire at times, but there's still hope to be able to change the effects that we're seeing.
must be very frustrating for you, a young individual, to have to stand up in front of commissioners and try to convince them to protect a forest.
It
Adults.
is. It's scary.
Right?
And it's even more sad whenever people stand up there and they talk and they pour their hearts out about what they feel so strong about. And then the commissioners up on the board, they just pretending like they're not even caring at all. And it's just so hurtful to see. But despite that, you can still fight through. There's still hope. There's always still hope to continue to fight for what you believe in. So no matter what adversities you face, just know that you can always keep fighting, and there's always a chance that you can really make change.
Awesome. Thank you. Dawn, you're next.
Hello again. So the way I approach this question is very similar to the way Karen thinks about it. I think about it mostly in the career sense, and also like future as in family. I mean, even though I'm 17, like I think about those things, and seeing a future for myself. I always thought like a family, and sometimes I think about like, is having children like selfish? Like I even though that's more extreme than I would have wished to sound, I think like raising life like in the future and like not having that guaranteed until we get like the amount of action that I want to see and that I want to be a part of. I think about raising like children here, as well as like where I would want to live and where I would want that community to look like. So I feel like shifting towards the future, I've like incorporated more of climate action as I've become involved. Like, yes, I've seen myself going into education. So it's a matter of how I can add that into what I do with education. So whether that's like climate education and getting that into curriculum all over the country and letting kids know like this is impacting you, and this is how it's impacting you, and this is how you can act against it, and you can counteract the actions that surround it. So I think a big part of this and narrowing down what I was going to do with my future was just like narrowing in like what I wanted to focus on in this issue, which happened to be like justice surrounding like human beings as well as education. So, and just like equipping myself with as many resources I can, as well as surrounding myself with motivated people who care about the same things, and just like continuing to push conversation about it and push action. So, yeah.
Beautifully said. And I just want to say, you know, I'm 29 years old, and I am also battling with that feeling of wanting to have children, but being terrified of the lack of resources and the fears of our future. And quite frankly, it's a conversation that's not had enough, which is why I thank you all for being so brave in talking about these things that you're feeling conflicted with internally. But something that I've realized that has kind of scratched that itch is that, you know, your level of influence as a person and the people around you is like raising the next generation, no matter what age group, whether it's a child that you interact with or a full-grown adult. You being bright, illuminated youth leaders is really, really significant. And, you know, I think that you're kind of raising awareness every single day. So next up is JD.
Hello again. So for the future, I understand that there's probably a lot of fears. For whatever reason, I'm not scared. I'm very hopeful in making the best of the constraints and the opportunities that are in front of me and in front of us. I'm the type of person that if I think about all the bad that's in the world, I get very discouraged. But I don't know if you guys seen, what's his name? The guy from The Office. He had recently made a YouTube channel about some good news.
Krasinski, John Krasinski.
Yes. I'm the type who needs positivity, and I feel that even though all the climate crisis that's going on and all the issues that we're facing, the only way that we can improve is to be positive. And that's all I can see myself doing, is trying to improve our society, basically, to try to change that norm of caring more about yourself or about your family, which there's there's not really anything wrong with that, but we have to expand our scope to what's considered our family to the rest of the world. And I've always had that mentality of go, go, go. There's no place to stop. And I think that's somewhat the mentality we need to have now, even though there are so many people talking about self-care, and which is also very important. Another way to care for yourself is to care for the people around you and to care for the planet. And people forget that the planet is what creates profit. We profit off the planet, and there's going to be no planet left if we don't take care of it.
Awesome. Well, because I want to jump to questions from the audience, I'll ask one more quick one. What do you wish, and maybe just less than a minute, you could say to people within your age group, to inspire them to maybe, get motivated to take action, whether it's with your groups or not? What is something that you wish that you can just put in front of their faces? And I'll start with Arnaldo.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important question. I think there's a misconception that if you care about the environment, wildlife, people in general, that you have to solely go into the environmental field, and there's this stereotype that you're a tree hugger and you're out in the field and all that stuff. And what I would tell people is that that's definitely not true, and that you can make change within your own field, regardless of what it is. That it is very important, regardless if you go into medicine, law, creating policy, just working in the food industry. There are different ways for you to, make a good contribution to help limit this climate crisis and help fight all the issues that are going around us. And you can do it in your own way and in your own field. So it's just knowing and being very conscious that whatever you do, I've seen crazy things. There's a lot of innovation happening in the technology field and just new ideas and all fields, and that everybody is working in. So just do a little bit of research. If not, try to come with it, brainstorm. But there's always different ways to help, and you don't have to go head in if you don't want to, but you can incorporate it definitely, and you can make a positive change in whichever way you think you have your talent, you're talented in this area, then you can just go through that area. But just find ways to incorporate it, because at the end of the day, this is going to affect us all. So we just have to be a little bit more responsible in the way that we confront this.
That's very well said. You don't necessarily, you can make profit. You can be a for-profit company and still do what you need to do to be responsible and have a relationship with nature threaded throughout the mission of your company. You can become a B Corp, for example, and things like that. You can donate a certain percentage to other organizations that are doing good. And then there's also technology that you can invest in to innovate so that you make sure your company has less of an impact. So I think that's very well said. Karen, you're next.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to start off by quoting Gloria Anzaldúa. She's a queer Latinx feminist theorist, and she wrote, though we tremble before uncertain futures, may we meet illness, death, and adversity with strength. May we dance in the face of our fears. And I think that comes down to mental health for me. I feel before you can get involved, before you can take action, definitely center yourself in your thoughts and think about, why are you going to get involved? And is it going to be intentional? And is it going to be for self-interest? Is it going to be so that you have a career and realize that, there's bigger problems than the ones that you're facing? This is a intersectional, problem that is approaching, and none of that's going to matter when we don't have water, when we don't have food, when we can't grow when we can't grow food, when we don't have breathable air. And once you feel like you're in the right headspace to get involved, I suggest, finding organizations like the ones that I mentioned, for example, Coalition of Immokalee Workers, Student Farm Worker Alliance, Florida WAF, Farm Worker Association of Florida. And yeah, making sure that you are taking whatever actions you can in your community to stand up for the most vulnerable in your community, because a lot of the times we don't realize our privileges. And become a conscious consumer, right? If you know that Amazon right now is forcing people to work, is, doing so many, or causing so much abuse towards people, don't support them. Take your own risk and go to whatever local store is close to you, right? And lastly, I always encourage everybody, if you are centered in the right space and you may not see yourself as a leader, but you sometimes, you have to remember that we are the ones that we've been waiting for. And I encourage you to run for office, because we need more young, bold, progressive people running for office and taking headfirst a lot of the issues, taking on headfirst a lot of the issues that we're facing. And we need people who are unapologetically going to do that. So that's my little reply.
Incredible. Kristen.
So I believe that getting out the message to the masses that doing a little bit can really go a long way. And I think that's important to communicate with people who don't really care or know that much about climate change, because at the end of the day, I think it's important for everyone to really be conscious of their own consumption, whether it's meat consumption, water consumption, waste production, or really, like Karen said, like where your money goes. Just first being conscious of that, I think, is a really, really important step. And then just progressing towards making little changes, which, like I said, starting out with a little bit, which ends up doing a lot. Like I started out like recycling and just recycling. And then I educated myself more through these groups and through all of you amazing people. You taught me what it's like, what it can be like to be really almost, zero footprint. Of course, I'm nowhere near that, but reaching there and going toward that is amazing. And it's honestly just a great challenge to put upon yourself. And also just getting involved with local organizations and just uplifting each other is super important. Like I want to give a quick mention to the Green Actioneers led by Dave Finnegan. He created this amazing workbook to give to young children in school to bring home and have family-friendly environmentalism. So please go check him out on Indiegogo and just, support who you can and give your money to things that you believe in. And I know that's not always accessible, but just educating yourself, I think, is really important, and just making every step that you can, because even doing a little bit, like I said, it can do a lot. And that's what I want to communicate.
That is incredible. Lorena, you're next.
You're on mute, I think.
That's so funny. Thank you. I was just like going on a rant, and then I was like,
That's
it. I think something that's really valuable is not underestimating your power and what significance they have on those around you. So by that, I mean that there's like a twofold impact with what you do. So by vouching to take individual changes in your life, reducing your carbon footprint, be it reducing your meat consumption, and then taking systematic actions that you can vouch for, whether that be having your university divest from fossil fuels, you're fighting for those who cannot. And I think that's the most valuable thing that people need to realize, is that unfortunately in other parts of the world, there are tribal leaders or other environmentalists or just activists in general who are unfortunately either threatened or assassinated for the voice that they are using. And unfortunately, in many of those countries, their voices have to be silenced. And it's a really unfortunate thing to see, because many of those people are the ones who are at the front lines, and they're the defenders of the earth. So I think it's important to value your voice and how you can use your voice to amplify the voices of those who cannot speak. And it's just very important to realize that your voice has a lot more power than what you think.
Perfect. Zach, it's your turn. You're on mute.
You're also on mute.
One second. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, 1 sec. I actually X'd out my camera. I'm almost to it.
We can see you.
Oh, you can?
Yep, you're on. So tell us a little bit about what you wish you could communicate to people in your age group.
One sec. I'm really sorry about this. Almost to it. Oh, there we go. Okay, I can see you guys now. So I'm gonna say I have to agree with Lorena. She made a bunch of really good points about reducing your carbon footprint. You definitely want to pay attention to it. There's some major things you can do, such as buying an electric or hybrid vehicle, putting solar on your roof. But to like the kids and peers, some things you can do to reduce your carbon footprint and help with the climate change is don't leave a light on when you leave a room, because that causes electricity to go into the atmosphere and cause global warming. But also things like don't leave your car running. This goes out to parents as well, obviously. Don't leave your car running. And yeah, just pay attention to your carbon footprint. Sorry, I had a whole thing prepared and then I actually X'd out the Zoom meeting. That's my bad.
That's okay. Just speak from your heart.
Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Ashton, you're up next.
So something I would like to communicate would just be, it's okay to just start small. I feel like for a lot of people in my age group, and even for me when I was first starting out getting involved with activism, it seems like such a daunting task to have to think about, what can I do to help reduce my carbon footprint, and what can I do to think about other people? And I mean, not in a way that's bad, you should always think about other people, but I just mean it's a daunting task to jump into this kind of world. And it's okay to just start small. Just start with riding your bike to school instead of taking your car, or as some of you guys said, turning your lights off, and just the little things like that. It's completely fine to start there and then build up your research and get more involved with organizations. Yeah.
Perfect. Dawn, how about you?
The way I think about it is I find myself surrounded around people who are aware of it, but then they don't take action because there's an element of the challenge that they've given up. And I feel like the biggest thing I communicate to them is just get involved. Just get involved as much as you can, as well as as everyone else has said, take a part in the little things. I think a big issue with our generation is just we focus so much on the shortness, the profit, I guess, is a big analogy for that. And I was listening to an example the other day, and if you think about history as a line, right? If you're focused on the one dot, you'll contribute to that line. I think about it you're living that life as if you're traveling that dot. And if you don't think about the future as well as contribute to the movement, you're not thinking about the continuance of the line. And I think that's a huge part of why I involve myself in the movement, is because I think about the future, and I want other people to enjoy this earth and be able to live here and to have families and dreams and aspirations, because I was gifted with all of those things. And now facing this and having dreams and aspirations, I have to make that a part of it just to keep moving forward. So I think what I would say the most to my generation is to get involved and think about the longevity of our planet and just people. And I think there's so many ways to get down and out about it, but if we stay optimistic and we think about the future, I think the most they can do is get involved and just not settle and just appreciate what they have now and just want it for posterity. So yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. JD.
So, building off of what everybody else has said, my kind of mantra is to be the change you want to see in the world. I know it's really cheesy. Probably a lot of people say it, but it's true. You want to lead by example. It's hard to fight for something and go and contradict yourself whenever you're not acting in a way that goes along with what you believe in. And this doesn't have to be protesting. It doesn't have to be shouting from the rooftops. It can just be changing little things. So I'm very introverted. I don't speak too much, but it's my job, so I've learned to do it. And I found that even though I'm super introverted, I care about these things. And it's that little connection you have with some other people that they come up to you and they also care. And you share that connection with them. And then you realize you're not really alone in this. You're not alone in this fight. We all, not all of us, but a lot of us want to see the world change. And it really starts with yourself. You can't expect companies to change if you aren't going to change your behavior. And it goes back to the whole supply and demand. If you demand it to be sustainable, you demand to be for everything to be fair trade and local, you have to act that way. And then everybody else moves along with you. I think a lot of people have issues with government being slow or not reactive or proactive enough. And a lot of that is kind of, you have to take responsibility for that, because we are the voters and we act in a way that allows the government to say, for instance, the population doesn't really want this. Well, we do, we're just not acting that way. So I believe, again, to reiterate everyone's thoughts, you have to do those little changes within yourself in order to let everybody else be more sustainable and think about climate change and think about our planet. It really starts with you, and it's not a big change you have to make. It could be a little change, and that little change, like Kristen and Lorena and Karen and Zach and Dawn and Arnaldo and Ashton and Lee, all of you said, you can change things.
Beautifully said. So we're going to go ahead and take a question. We have one major question from the Facebook comments, but someone did private message me, and I will not reveal their identity, but they expressed a concern that there's a feeling from some comments that were said during our climate strike and some things that were said here where old people don't care. And I think that, first of all, never said that, never want to say that, never want to marginalize any demographic of person, period. We're all in this together, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of race. Climate change is going to impact all of us. This is not a partisan issue. It's going to affect everybody, right? But, we do have to tip our hats to those who laid the groundwork in this movement years before we were even born, right? I think any comments that were said that might have been construed in a way where it might feel like, we're trying to express that we're not heard is because just from some of our experiences, and I'm speaking for me here, I've seen that votes are going different ways based on representatives and their intentions and how they're persuaded and kind of what their short-term goals are in their seat. And also, I've felt in some cases kind of oppressed in my voice by people that were over the age of 50, 60 sometimes. But I've also met people from under the age of 13 to over the age of 65 that have locked arms with me and have marched and have protested. And, we're all unified here. I just think at the root of any negativity as to why anyone would deny climate change or would deny legislation on climate action is because of fear of change. And when you have to properly vocalize that climate change is real, you kind of have to point yourself right back in the face. Every one of us, we all have to look in the mirror and say, what conscious behavioral choices do I make on a daily basis that I have to change? In what ways do my quality of life and my behavior and routines have to change? And that is really difficult for some people. And, regardless of age, but, we're just trying to stress that we're even more scared because the truest, most prevalent, and sometimes in some studies, the worst case scenarios of when it'll be so hot outside that people will be dying of heat stroke and fatigue in massive numbers will be most likely when we are just really starting to hit that age of 55, 60, when we're going to be very vulnerable, and our kids and our kids' kids. And that's why we're expressing that youth side and that youth voice. But ultimately, we're in this together. So I just wanted to bring that up before I say our last question. We're down to our last 15 minutes. We have a question from Nicole Wilson, who says, do you think there's a silver lining to this pandemic, considering that our environment is getting a break? Fossil fuels are tanking, people are gardening. What are some of your thoughts? And we'll start with Arnaldo, and we'll try to do 1 minute each.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief. Of course, we can't ignore that the pandemic has been horrible. It's taken many lives. It's affected us directly. But, there's always two sides to a coin. If you want to make the best out of it, and we can, and we've seen people do that, you take action by yourself. And, we'd have more time now. It's a consequence of being, stuck at home and following these measures to keep everybody safe. We do have more time. And so if we use that time wisely, for example, taking care of our gardens, doing events like these, getting engaged online about the climate crisis and just sharing our views, then yes, you can find ways to positively use your time and stay active. There's always going to be, two sides to the coin, but, as everybody mentioned, there's always going to be a time for you to be hopeful and just keep moving forward. And we have an opportunity to do that here. Even though we're in this crazy pandemic, we still have an opportunity to do things that are positive and meaningful.
Well said. Karen?
Yeah, I completely agree with Arnaldo. I think, we have more time, and yes, that's important. But I also want to point that, a lot of folks are, yes, in a privileged position, but we also can't let ecofascism become like an ideology that is accepted, right? We can't let some people who are more vulnerable die just because we think that it's better for the environment. Personally, I have a friend, Maddie, who is a UCF alumni, and she is in DC. She's been chronically ill her whole life. And right now she feels like people are willing to throw her under the bus in order to continue moving forward. And when I say she is one of the most active, most, influential people that I know in organizing, I really mean it. And it would be a shame to lose someone like her when we actually need people like that right now to step up. And so I think that, we can't let ecofascism become a mainstream form of thinking, right? I think that this is a great time to pivot. I think that there's a lot of really great legislation out there, like the Green New Deal, that could really be useful right now. I think that at a local level, we should really take advantage of home rule and ban fracking, ban oil drilling, retrain workers that are normally in gas, coal, etc., into solar and renewables, because we have the time now, right? And we have the resources. When people, particularly like our elected officials who, don't want to do these kind of things, I'm sorry, that came out wrong. But regardless, like, we have the financial resources. It's just whether we want to prioritize our people over profit. And I think that it's up to us to really further that kind of messaging and to fight. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you. Kristen.
Good word, Karen. This pandemic is absolutely devastating. It's uprooted everybody's lives, some more than others. And I don't think there should be any talk about how the world can be better because some people are dying. Like, that's not okay. Absolutely not. Maybe we can see the visible impact that happens when we're not on the road as much. And I think that has value. But something I think that is really important that has come out of it is people valuing nature more, and just knowing, like, when they're not outside and they're not seeing sunshine and green and everything around us, it gets depressing. And a lot of people have the ability to go outside and go on walks, but some people don't have a porch or they're at risk. And I think it's just really bringing to all of our attention how valuable nature is and how important it is to protect it. So yes, it's overall absolutely terrible, but it is important to learn from it, because you should learn from everything, and that's my takeaway.
Very well said. Very well said. Lorena?
I have to agree with a lot with what Karen and Kristen were saying, in the sense that the fact that, like, the whole planet has been on pause, and that we've been seeing, there's obviously that, like, iconic image going around where in Venice the waters have gotten so clear, fishes have been appearing. But that kind of mentality is very dangerous, because we cannot let people who are at the most risk just be tossed aside during this time. Because if we allow for that kind of mentality to slide, what's going to happen when real issues start to arise and exacerbate with climate change? So I think if you have the privilege and if you have the time right now to, initiate some sort of small change in your life, now is probably the best time to do so, and really initiate something meaningful that can really contribute to your life.
Beautiful. Zach?
Yeah, so I definitely think that there's a bright side. Obviously we see that there's cleaner air in China and Europe and other places around the world. But I agree with everyone that has said you can't overlook the fact that this is a terrible time. People are passing away due to circumstances that shouldn't be going on. So we can't focus too much on the fact that there are bright sides. We just have to figure out how to get through this until we can resume, fighting climate change and things like that on a regular basis.
Awesome. Ashton?
Yeah, I think, like a lot of you guys have said, it's absolutely heartbreaking to see the kind of devastation that people all over the globe are going through at this time. But perhaps whenever life can return back to more of a normal scene, we can take the lessons that we learned on the environmental spectrum and maybe apply them, and maybe through the reduction of consumption that we are seeing now and seeing how it's improving our environmental state, we can apply that to whenever things are more normal, and since we know how much of a change it can make and how much good it can bring. So I'm not saying that it's good that what we're going through is absolutely horrible, but perhaps we can take it as a lesson once life is back to the way it was before.
Very well said. Dawn?
Going off of what Ashton said, I agree with the fact that recognizing, I guess, the communities most impacted by this pandemic is like a way we can definitely grow. Like, this is absolutely awful, but I think it's a great way to highlight who is most at risk. Like, there's plenty of communities that I've seen finally getting attention right now because they are the ones struggling the most and they are being like most disadvantaged at this time. And this is attention that these communities need. So I think like rallying around these communities, obviously during these times, but after these times, and bringing attention to their issues and seeing how many of them have been like vastly uprooted by this pandemic. Imagine like how climate change is impacting them, and drawing attention to stuff like that can be more of a silver lining of this event.
Thank you. JD?
I don't think we're going to go back to normal. I don't think people are going to be okay with going back to what we consider normal because of everything that's happened. Lots of people have died, and that is not okay. That's the fault of kind of slow reaction to this crisis. And I think people are really understanding now that, yes, there are some areas that are looking environmentally better, but that doesn't mean it's socially better. And to incorporate all three pillars of sustainability, you have to include the people and the profit and planet. So it's not that it is some good. However, this sets up the world for where we're going to live in next. There is going to be a new normal, and that I think that new normal is people waking up and realizing that what we do as humans on this planet is very impactful. Even us as individuals, us going to the grocery store, that little change ignites this whole chain of events that maybe you didn't realize before, but now you realize now. And I think that whole new normal, or going to this new idea of what life will be after this pandemic, is going to be eye-opening.
100%. You know, when I think about the number of hundreds of thousands of people who die because of climate-related effects every year, and I read the peer-reviewed analysis of climate change impacts and read up on how our future is going to be affected, I always used to say, well, we would have to close everything down and basically have to rebuild our economy on clean energy and do something similar to what FDR did with the New Deal, but all on green initiatives in order to completely rebuild our global economic interlink between nations. And it's actually happening. Of course, the pandemic is also costing lives, thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives. And that's not something that we should ever speak lightly on, but it is happening in a time of crisis. Now all we have to do is get our global leaders to recognize that climate change is in fact a crisis, and to agree that we need to take equal action to that of this pandemic. Then I feel like we have proof that it can happen, that we can pause, if need be, our nations in order to make better decisions to impact, this climate crisis. So on that note, I just wanted to put up a slide that says all of your contact information on where to get involved, and, make sure that we have an opportunity for people to screenshot that in case anybody wants to contact you. From the bottom of my heart, I just have to say, I was holding back tears on every single one of your speeches, because I think that when you're an organizer, you might feel like you need to be the leader all the time. And sometimes that can make you feel isolated in and of your own organization, because you're pushing for this mission and trying to educate people and trying to keep your head in this positive space. And every once in a while, when you do start to feel very discouraged or afraid, meeting other people like every single one of you just reinvigorates me with hope, because I know that you all are leading your own charges towards your own missions, and you're all in the exact same space as me. So thank you so, so much for inspiring me and for just being brave to share what you shared today. Yes, just thank you. And I look forward to connecting with you all again. Hopefully we can do this in person. And please be safe. Hug and kiss your families. Call everybody twice a week, 3 times a week, and just tell everybody that you love them. And yes, thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, please contact these amazing leaders. And thank you. Have a wonderful evening and be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
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 Bye. Thank you so much.